"Hey, sweep the floor while I play the piano, will you?" At the College of Music reunion, a genius pianist, my classmate, who looked down on me for dropping out of college, said that to me. Why should I have to sweep the floor for him? I felt a surge of anger towards the classmate who was constantly belittling me. I heard everything you guys were talking about. Then, my childhood friend, who apparently overheard my conversation with the classmate, came up with a clever idea and whispered it to me. I was surprised by what she suggested. My name is Mark. I was a student at College of Music, dreaming of becoming a pianist. Every day, I played the piano, feeling as if the piano and I were in perfect harmony. To me, the piano was like a twin, a part of myself. Inseparable, the piano I played produced a sound that was uniquely ours. Look at his performance, isn't it amazing? It's so good it's almost off-putting. Around my piano playing, a crowd had gathered, careful not to disturb the performance. I was envied by my rivals, as I was expected to have a bright future. Of course, there were those who didn't like me. I don't care how promising you are, don't monopolize the piano and show off like that. Hearing my performance, my classmate Bob approached me and said that I was dumbfounded by his persistence in bothering me, despite the fact that I had chosen a less crowded time and obtained the teacher's permission. Bob, who was also aiming to be a pianist, and I did not get along well. Go ahead, play the piano if you want. What did you say? Not liking conflicts, I stopped playing and said that as I worked past Bob. He shouted something as I ignored him and headed to the deserted rooftop. You're here again. Shut up. After a while, my childhood friend Emma, who liked to tease me, showed up. You ran away here because of what Bob said, right? You should have given him a piece of your mind. That's too much hassle. I just want to play the piano. Knowing about my relationship with Bob, Emma said that, but I had always refused. I might seem cowardly, but all I could think of was my dream of becoming a pianist. Perhaps, such a way of thinking of mine could turn my life upside down. Fate cruelly tested me. It happened one day on my way to college as usual. A truck, whose driver had fallen asleep at the wheel, came barreling towards me. I lost consciousness, and when I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Mark, the next scene that caught my eye was my family and Emma, tears welling up in their eyes as they cried. It seemed they were overwhelmed with emotion upon seeing me awake. A drowsy driver crashed into you, my family explained. Due to the accident, I had severe injuries all over my body, leaving me unable to move my limbs. Both my hands and feet were bandaged. And especially my hands were in such a bad state that Dr. Smith said I might never be able to move them again. Just as I had been dreaming of becoming a pianist, the accident took it all away in an instant. Lost and swirling with emotions, I stood on the brink of despair. Seeing me in this state, Emma, who had come to visit, muttered softly, "Then, I'll become a nurse." What? Surprised by Emma's words, I asked her back, and she looked at me directly, tears still in her eyes. "Even if there's a 0% chance, I'll become your personal nurse and help with your rehabilitation, so that you can play the piano again." Saying this, Emma made a firm promise to me and then left the hospital room. Despite having heard that my hands might never move again and feeling as though my dreams and hope were shattered, she refused to give up. But I didn't expect anything from Emma. I had resigned myself to the thought that even she, who had cried for me as if my pain were her own, would eventually leave me. I had never expected to hear Emma's determination from my family. Emma, she said she's going to become a nurse and suddenly left school. A few weeks later, my mother, who came to visit me, expressed her concern about Emma. She hadn't shared the details with her own family or mine. I was taken aback by this shocking revelation. When my mother asked me, "Did you hear anything?" I hesitated to speak. Since Emma herself hadn't told her own family, I felt it would be wrong to speak on her behalf, so I firmly kept my mouth shut. Realizing that Emma was serious about helping with my rehabilitation shook me deeply. Is she really believing in that 1% chance that my hands might move again? Inspired by Emma's strong determination, I felt compelled to ask Dr. Smith for rehabilitation. Since my condition had led me to leave the College of Music, I focused solely on rehabilitation. However, rehabilitation was not as easy as I had thought. I struggled even to stand, and despite repeated efforts, my hands remained motionless. No matter how much I wished, my body wouldn't easily respond. "You look like you're suffering." "I'm okay, I can't give up now." My family worried about me, and my mother even suggested stopping the rehabilitation, but I didn't falter. Knowing Emma's resolve, I couldn't afford not to try my hardest. Years of grueling rehabilitation passed, and I recently heard from my mother that Emma graduated from nursing school. Since the day Emma declared her intention to become a nurse, we hadn't been in direct contact. We hadn't even seen each other. Even though she hadn't visited me, my mother kept me informed about Emma, which encouraged me. It seemed as if Emma knew my feelings and tried hard to grow as a person. I could feel her seriousness. I could tell because we had grown up together as family friends. It was as if our thoughts were connected, both of us working towards our goals every day. Then, several more years passed, and suddenly the day arrived. "This is Emma, your new rehabilitation therapist. Emma, please take good care of him." Emma's supervisor, unaware of our relationship, introduced her to me. I was surprised. I knew she had worked hard to become a nurse, but I never imagined Emma would actually be assigned as my rehabilitation nurse. Emma responded to her supervisor and waited until he left. Then, she turned to me formally. "It's been a long time, Mark. Have you been well? I became a nurse and came back to you." "Yeah, you really did work hard, didn't you?" I felt nothing but respect for her. Seeing my reaction, Emma grinned ear to ear. "But it's too early to praise me, Mark. The real challenge starts now. I'll support you so your hands can move again. Please count on me." The energetic Emma seemed unchanged from our school days. I couldn't help but laugh, and Emma puffed out her cheeks in dissatisfaction. "But as someone who would be under her care," I replied, "I'm counting on you, thank you." Then, the rigorous rehabilitation with Emma began. I had continued rehabilitation while she was away, but I was far from being able to move on my own. Knowing I needed more than half-hearted resolve to recover, I asked Emma for more intense rehabilitation. Initially hesitant, Emma agreed after seeing my determination. The rehabilitation became even more demanding than before. But it was never a burden. Probably because Emma was there with me. Years flew by. And miraculously, I was able to walk again and had already been discharged from the hospital. Now, I commuted from home for rehabilitation, still working on my not yet perfect hands with Emma. Thanks to Emma's dedicated guidance over the years, my hands, once thought irrecoverable, were slowly regaining movement. "You're getting better at writing. At this rate, you'll be able to play the piano too." Encouraged by Emma, I tried playing the piano, but initially, it didn't go well. I remembered how to move my hands from back then, but my fingers wouldn't cooperate. However, I didn't give up. That's the spirit. Weeks later, after another rehab session, I tried the piano again and managed to play the keys correctly. That day marked the beginning of my piano practice at home. Gradually recalling the old sensations. "You did it, Mark." Emma's joyous smile, as if it were her own achievement, made me happy too. Despite having been told I would never move my hands and feet again, Emma had always been on my side, and I had fallen in love with her without realizing. That was hard to believe, because I used to think only of the piano. But now, I was already 40. I felt guilty for having involved her in my life. I wasn't good enough yet. I decided I must be able to play the piano as I used to before addressing my feelings. Until then, I would keep my emotions to myself. Knowing she was of age, I once asked her during rehab, "Do you have a boyfriend?" She evaded the question with a vague no. There was a moment she seemed to be hiding something, making me wonder if she might already have a boyfriend she hadn't told me about. It wouldn't be strange at her age to even have children. My feelings might interfere with her life, but I couldn't give up on expressing them. Holding these thoughts, I received an unexpected message one day from a classmate from the music academy. "If you can, come to the reunion." The reunion was organized by someone who was apparently in cahoots with Bob, and they had invited me, even though I had dropped out at the time. Without any suspicion, I nostalgically agreed to attend, unaware that I was falling right into their trap. The next day, when I mentioned the reunion to Emma, she said she had been invited too and suggested we go together, seeming a bit apprehensive. "Don't make it sound like a girl who needs someone to go to the bathroom with. You still act like a student, don't you? Come on, we're childhood friends and both dropouts, so stop complaining and let's go." Urged by Emma, I agreed, and she seemed relieved. I found her concern endearing and chuckled to myself. Before I knew it, the day of the reunion arrived. "Mark, long time no see, have you been well?" Upon arriving at the reunion venue, my classmates joyfully gathered around me, delighted to see me after so long. I noticed that Emma, too, was surrounded by female classmates, chatting away. We each spent time reminiscing and catching up with our former classmates, as if trying to recapture our student days. "Hey, long time no see, dropout Mark." Then, a familiar voice from behind made me startle. Turning around, I saw Bob, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. "Bob, it's been a while. Do you see that piano over there? It's set up for me, the genius pianist." He pointed towards a stage where a piano was indeed placed. After my accident, Bob had graduated and become a renowned pianist, now frequently appearing on TV shows. I had seen him on TV a few times and knew he seemed to revel in his status, surrounded by his entourage. Among them, I noticed the person who had invited me to the reunion. It dawned on me that I had been set up by Bob and his accomplice. The loser shows up at the reunion I organized. "Hurt your fingers, don't move well because of the accident. Guess your pianist dream is over. Right. God was watching you. He knew I'm the more deserving genius pianist than you." I pitied Bob, who hadn't changed since our school days. Yet, I couldn't help but feel envious, as he had achieved the dream of becoming a pianist before me. Having once aspired to be a pianist myself, it was impossible for me not to feel frustrated. Bob knew this and had probably organized this event deliberately. "Oops, excuse me." Suddenly, Bob grabbed a glass of juice from a table and spilled it on the floor. He then mockingly said to me, "Sweep the floor while I play the piano. It'll be good rehab for your hands." His entourage burst into laughter with him. But I didn't back down. "Why should I? You spilled it on purpose, so you clean it up." Still as cheeky as ever, "I knew you'd say that, but you know why you'll be the one cleaning, right?" I waited for his explanation, and Bob smirked. "I reserved this venue under your last name. If it gets too messy, the venue's manager will come after you." His underhanded tactics, using my name, brought my anger to a boiling point. "That's why you better clean it up. And hurry, the TV crew will be here soon to film my piano performance." Bob sneered as he walked past me. His entourage followed, one of them deliberately spilling their drink on the floor. Seeing this, I clenched my fist tightly. Honestly, I still harbored resentment towards Bob for his continued harassment, just like in the old days. However, not wanting to ruin the reunion, I suppressed my anger. just as I was about to borrow cleaning equipment from the staff. I heard everything that was just said. The one who said this to me was Emma, who until moments ago had been deeply engaged in conversation with our classmates. Then, Emma whispered to me, "He said that this venue was reserved under the name of Mark, right? I just thought of something fun." "What?" I was surprised by what she whispered to me. Emma, on the other hand, seemed amused. I thought it might be a bad idea, but she reassured me not to worry and just head over to the piano. "Don't worry, you have practiced a lot beyond your rehabilitation. Be confident." With a smile, Emma said this and then quickly went off somewhere. I was a bit perplexed by her bold suggestion, but trusting her, I made my way to the piano. Shortly after, during the TV coverage at the reunion venue, Emma surprisingly appeared on stage as the host, microphone in hand. Who let her have the mic? Then, Bob, who was waiting on stage, immediately tried to stop Emma. But he was stopped by the venue staff. "Sir, you can't just go on stage like that. Hey, let go of me. I'm the genius pianist Bob Anderson. I was informed that Mr. Abbott reserved today's performance. Any changes were made by you, weren't they?" "What? I didn't make any changes." "Who on earth would?" Bob's words were cut short. Turning to see, Emma was sticking her tongue out at the raging Bob. Indeed, she had exploited Bob's misdeed of making a reservation in my name and convinced the staff to change the performer to me. Naturally, as the person who made the reservation had given their consent, the staff accepted the change without any doubt. "Somebody stop her." Realizing he'd been outmaneuvered by Emma, Bob naturally erupted in anger. Struggling and restrained by the confused staff, I walked past Bob. "Mark, you. I did clean the floor properly. It made for a good warm-up. I should thank you." Saying this with a laugh, I ignored the frenzied Bob and sat at the piano. After confirming this, Emma took the mic again and began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, witness the miraculous comeback of Mark Abbott, who, despite being told he would never use his hands again after an accident, never gave up on his dream of becoming a pianist." With that, Emma encouraged me to play the piano. Relaxing my shoulders, I placed my fingers on the piano keys and began to play the piano. During the performance, the venue was abuzz. Everyone was captivated by my piano playing. After finishing the performance, I received a grand round of applause from my classmates. Watching this, I felt like I had reclaimed the part of myself that had aspired to be a pianist. "Who are you, exactly?" The journalists, who were there for Bob, crowded around me after my performance. As I was bewildered, Emma stepped in and said, "Please leave the interviews for after the reunion," and managed to shoo them outside. After getting rid of all the journalists, she turned to me. "That was an amazing performance. Well done, Mark." "Jer, thank you so much, Emma. It's my way of thanking you for coming to the reunion. Just kidding." Emma said this with a laugh, but thanks to her, I was able to reclaim the part of myself that had been aspiring to be a pianist. I was filled with an indescribable sense of gratitude towards her. This feeling persisted even after the reunion. After a fun gathering with my classmates, I was leaving the venue when I was suddenly swarmed by the media, causing quite a stir. The next day, I was featured in the media as an unknown genius pianist. And thus, I became known to the world. On the other hand, Bob was left ignored by the media and ended up in a dispute with the venue staff. A classmate captured this moment, and the video went viral, causing a major uproar. He was labeled as the true nature of a genius pianist in articles, leading to a big commotion. However, given Bob's actions, it seemed like he got what he deserved. It's payback for the old days. During our student days, Emma said this about Bob, who had always interfered with my piano playing because he disliked it. I decided to forget about Bob and focus solely on my piano playing. "Hey, there's something I want to talk to you about." A few days later, I approached Emma nervously. She had been helping me with my rehabilitation as usual, but now that I had become a pianist, I was determined to confess my feelings. Seeing me tense, Emma initially seemed surprised, but then she smiled slightly and said, "Go ahead," encouraging me to speak. Although I felt like my feelings were already obvious, I gathered my courage and confessed my love to her. To which she smiled and said, "Finally, you said it." It seemed she had been waiting for my confession all this time. I had initially hesitated, wondering if she had a boyfriend, but in reality, she had been earnestly supporting me in my dream of becoming a pianist again. When I apologized for my late confession, Emma shook her head. "A late blooming romance isn't bad. I'm looking forward to our future together, Mark." As a pianist often referred to as a late bloomer, I felt somewhat comforted even when Emma mentioned it. A late blossoming love and dream. It was something I could never have achieved alone. It was always because of Emma, my partner. Now, I vowed to myself that it was my turn to be her support. Children from single-parent families like you, being poor, it's only natural you'd be last in line. And for someone who's supposedly so free, you can't even wait 4 hours. Don't you think that's a bit narrow-minded? I had an errand at the bank and unfortunately ran into a former classmate there who had always looked down on me. To make matters worse, he was the one working at the counter that day. Despite having taken a number, my turn was deliberately skipped. I repeatedly asked him when it would be my turn, but he kept dodging the question. In the end, I was called 4 hours later. He had no idea who I was calling, while I could no longer bear the wait. And then, he was about to face a hellish ordeal. My name is Jason. I was raised by my mother alone, in what you'd call a single-parent family. We became a single-parent family because my father passed away from illness when I was in kindergarten. My mother, previously a stay-at-home mom, had to start working to support us and became a career woman. I wanted to help with the finances, but as a little kid, there wasn't much I could do, so I decided to help with housework instead. "Mom, I'll take care of the cooking and laundry." I'll never forget the look on my mother's face when I said that. Her eyes seemed to say, "What is this kid talking about?" At first, she was against it, citing the dangers of fire and knives, but I insisted on helping. Eventually, she relented and let me take on some of the household chores. Of course, she knew a child in elementary school couldn't handle everything, so I started with tasks like cleaning the bathroom and only helped with cooking when she was there to supervise. The agreement was that I wouldn't do any cooking alone until I was older. Gradually, I learned to cook, and by the time I entered middle school, my mom allowed me to cook on my own, entrusting me with all the household chores. But I felt the weight of housework. I respected those who did it daily, even as a kid. Growing up this way, I didn't play with friends after school much. Preferring to help my mom, I often declined invitations, leading to some isolation in my class. Particularly from Ken, a classmate who always mocked me. "Jason, my mom said your family is a single-parent one." "Yeah, it is. My mom said that single-parent families never lead to a good life." When he said that smugly, I retorted, "You should probably stop calling your mom mommy. We're not little kids anymore." That made Ken throw a tantrum. Since then, Ken intensified his mockery. If I was using a short pencil, he ridiculed me by saying, "Can't afford new pencils." Being from a single-parent home, and if my sweater had a small fray, he'd quip, "Can't get a new one, can you?" Despite the pencil still being usable and the sweater having just a minor snag. Finding such trivial matters, Ken would taunt me, insinuating it was due to my single-parent background. "I can still use these, and it's just a small fray," I'd respond. But he'd just laugh and retort, "Sure, because you're a poor kid from a single-parent home." It seemed he relished using the term single-parent family excessively. This behavior persisted into middle school, with him greeting me in the hallways. "Hey, Jason from the single-parent family." By then, I simply ignored him. It was too bothersome to engage. In place of me, someone else started to stand up to Ken. "Ken, enough is enough," she would yell on my behalf. That person was my classmate, Emily. I first met Emily when I was at the supermarket, pondering what to make for dinner while picking out ingredients. She happened to be shopping at the same supermarket and approached me, calling out, "Jason." She was shopping for snacks at the same supermarket and approached me, noticing my basket full of groceries. "Running errands, that's impressive." "No, just picking up ingredients for tonight's dinner and thinking of making some side dishes." "Side dishes?" Her astonished reaction made me chuckle. "It's just me and my mom at home. She's always busy working, so I handle all the housework." "What? You cook too?" "Absolutely." "Jason, you're amazing." "I don't do anything." "Well, I guess that's normal. We're just middle schoolers, after all." Emily chuckled at my response, seemingly unsure how to react. I was used to such reactions, so I added, "Well, I enjoy doing it, so it's okay." After that, Emily started to show concern for me, saying things like, "Jason, I've recently started learning to cook too." Whenever Ken would hassle me, she'd defend me fiercely, saying, "Even if Jason is from a single-parent home, he's working hard. He doesn't deserve to be spoken to like that by someone like you. If you have a complaint, try being more hard-working than him first." Every time this happened, I would thank Emily. Concerned that neglecting my studies would reflect poorly on my mother's upbringing, I worked as hard as I could in my studies too. Whenever I didn't understand something, I would ask Emily, classmates, or teachers. Time flew by, and before I knew it, 3 years had passed, and it was our graduation day. Emily called me aside. "Watching you excel in cooking, studying, and cleaning, I realized how amazing you are. That's why I've come to like you, Jason. Would you go out with me?" she confessed. "I've always liked you, Emily, for always standing up for me and helping me out. I'd be happy to be with you." I expressed my sincere feelings, and we became a couple. Years passed since middle school, and now in my late 20s, I visited my main bank, Bennett Bank, for an errand. My ticket number was 36, and the current service number was 33. Just 3 more people. I should be called soon, I thought, sitting down to wait. But after an hour, my number still hadn't been called. Although the person with ticket 35 was taking unusually long, I thought it was understandable since it was a bank matter. During that time, I worked on my laptop, replied to work emails, played games on my cell phone, browsed social media, and watched videos. Finally, the person with 35 left the counter. Finally my turn, I thought, putting away my phone and gripping my ticket. Then unexpectedly, skipping ahead to ticket number 37, "Please come to the counter," was announced, and the screen showed 37. What? I was stunned as the person with 37 went to the counter. Maybe they were in a hurry and asked to go first. Yes, that must be it. Otherwise, they wouldn't skip numbers, I reasoned, sitting back down. But there was one thing troubling me. When I took my ticket, I noticed the name of today's counter attendant was Ken. Remembering a classmate with the same name, I glanced at the counter and realized it was indeed him. I almost instinctively called out to Ken, so much did he resemble the person I remembered from middle school. Despite not having seen Ken since we graduated, the resemblance was uncanny. So he ended up working at this bank. And to find him at this particular branch was completely unexpected. But Ken was the guy who always used to mock me for being from a single-parent family. Worried that Ken might say something if he recognized me, I discreetly moved away to avoid eye contact. When it was my turn at the counter, I planned to keep the interaction brief and professional, hoping to avoid any unnecessary comments. Although I thought it unlikely, I couldn't help but wonder if Ken might harass me here at the bank. But realistically, it had been decades since we graduated, and this was his workplace. I reasoned that he wouldn't engage in such behavior on the job, but still, there was a lingering doubt. Still, my number 36 wasn't called. Now they were calling 38. Ken seemed unfazed, continuing his work as if nothing was going on. Maybe I'll be called next, I thought, pulling out my phone again. But no. My number wasn't called. The counter was now serving 60. Of course, I approached the counter. "Excuse me, I'm number 36. Am I being called soon?" Ken, without looking up, replied, "You're next or so. We're just a bit out of order today. But the next person is 45 and I have 36. Ticket number 45, please come to the counter," was announced. My complaints were completely ignored. I wondered if that's really how the bank staff should act. Because Ken didn't help, I asked another female staff member, but all I got were responses like, "Please wait," and "I'll inform the person in charge." I had to suppress a mental retort, annoyed that no one else would assist me. I had been at the bank for nearly 2 hours already. It looked like my only option was to keep waiting. With that thought, I settled into wait again. I opened my work laptop and began doing some work while keeping an eye on the counter. It was almost 3 p.m., the closing time for the bank's counter service. I had been at Bennett Bank for about 4 hours. In the end, my number was never called, and I heard a clattering noise. Looking towards the counter, I saw to my surprise that they had begun packing up. "Wait, what?" I exclaimed, hurriedly packing my laptop and rushing to Ken's counter. "Hey, I haven't been called yet." When I showed Ken my ticket, he sneered. "Oh, my bad. I thought it'd be funny to call the poor guy from a single-parent home last, but I totally forgot about you," he laughed. "So he did it intentionally." Frustrated, I said, "You told me I'd be called next several times." "I said I thought I could call you next, not that I would," he replied. "Jason, being poor and from a single-parent home, it's natural for you to be last. You probably don't have anything important anyway. Can't you just wait? The bank isn't a charity. You're too narrow-minded if you can't wait," he mocked. I was stunned by Ken's attitude. He knew about my family, made me wait 4 hours, and didn't apologize. And in the end, he's suggesting that my inability to wait is a sign of my narrow-mindedness. I made up my mind. "Fine, I get it. I'm done here. If you want, I can help you now, but since it's past 3 p.m., you'll have to come back another day," he said, still laughing. Disappointed with Bennett Bank for allowing such behavior, I left without another word. Then, I made a phone call. The next day, David, the manager of Bennett Bank, was at my doorstep. "Mr. Ford, please reconsider closing your account with our bank. Sorry, but I've already decided." "Please." David was quite persistent, continuing this back and forth, but my decision remained unchanged. The person I called yesterday was David, the branch manager of the bank I went to. During that call, I informed him of my intention to close my account with Bennett Bank. He was shocked. "After all these years, why, Mr. Ford? I received unacceptable service at your counter. I can't trust your bank anymore," I said before hanging up. I'm not sure if David heard about what happened at the bank, but he contacted me again that night. He requested, "Please let me talk to you tomorrow morning." True to his word, David actually came to my house the next day. He seemed to know everything that had happened. David was sweating profusely, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief. "Our counter staff did something inexcusable. Ken was recently transferred and didn't know about you. We'll fire Ken. He's been problematic even at his previous branch, receiving complaints and causing issues. We will definitely fire him today, effective immediately. He won't bother you again, and we'll do anything else you need. Please reconsider closing your account. It's not your fault, David, you weren't there, but the fact that Ken himself isn't here to apologize. I don't feel any sincerity, I replied calmly. Then, I'll have Ken come and apologize. Shouldn't he have been the first to come? His behavior towards me yesterday was seen by others. It's unacceptable, both as a bank employee and as an adult. Well, I did tell him to come along. David's gaze was darting around nervously. I figured Ken probably said something like, "There's no way I'm apologizing to Jason," and bailed. Jason. I turned around to find Emily there. We'd been together since graduating from middle school and started living together after university. Harrison Bank is willing to accept all our deposits on the terms you set. They want to start the procedure right away, she informed me. Got it, thanks. So, David, I'm sorry, but we're moving all our deposits to Harrison Bank under better terms, so I can't reverse the account closure. Please proceed with the process, I said firmly. David finally seemed to accept it, looking dejected as he left. David seemed to have aged about 20 years all at once. Maybe it was just because he already had gray hair, but that's the impression I got. In the spirit of strike while the iron is hot, Emily and I headed straight to Harrison Bank. I muttered, I hope I didn't do David from Bennett Bank wrong. Emily quickly said, no way. Ken is the worst, and the bank let it happen. Plus, Ken never even apologized. He hasn't changed since middle school. I always appreciated that aspect of Emily, unchanged from the past. Well, our business with Bennett Bank is over, and we won't have to deal with them anymore. Let's leave it at that. Maybe you're okay with it, Jason, but I'm not. If I find Ken, I won't let him off, Emily said, mockingly practicing punches. I hoped for a more peaceful approach. As we arrived at Harrison Bank, we were shocked to see who was there. Ken, what's he doing here? There stood Ken. He was wearing a suit, but it appeared somewhat dirty. He approached us quickly when he saw us. Jason, it's all your fault, he began shouting. Why would a poor guy like you deposit $5 billion at our bank and then transfer it to another bank? What's that about? I'm moving banks because of your attitude yesterday, I replied. What, you, from a single-parent home, must be poor. That $5 billion must be dirty money. How did someone like you even get that much? It's all clean money. I'm running a company with Emily now. That's how we earned it. Ken was losing his cool. You might not know, but our company, Help Rabbit, is doing really well, Emily said. Help Rabbit? Isn't that the home service company I've seen on TV commercials? Jay, that's my company. Actually, Emily and I run a company together, which specializes in home service. Growing up in a single-parent household, I was responsible for all the household chores. I deeply understood the difficulty of managing home tasks. That's why, inspired by this, Emily and I started our own company after graduating from college, offering home service. This venture turned out to be a huge success, and now, my savings amount to $5 billion. Ken, get it, Jason's not poor anymore, and you lost your job at the bank because of how you looked down on him. You're stuck in the past, and that's why this happened, Emily said, looking down on Ken. Ken just crumbled right there. Afterward, we successfully changed our main bank to Harrison Bank. Ethan, the branch manager, was overjoyed, giving us a warm welcome. When we entered the meeting room, there was a banner saying, "Welcome, Mr. Ford," and even Mr. Thompson, the head of Harrison Bank, came personally to thank us. Thank you for choosing our bank. We will support you for life, he said. We shook hands. I vividly remembered the stark contrast in treatment compared to Bennett Bank. Though a bit overwhelmed by the commitment, I was looking forward to our new dealings with Harrison Bank. Later, Ken actually showed up at my house once, begging, "I apologize for everything. Please ask David to ignore my firing." No, It's too late for apologies, I firmly replied. Then, can you employ me at your company? We were classmates, right? When he tried to plead again, Emily said, "It's too late for that, you two-faced jerk. Don't you dare come back here again." Then, he fled the scene. I later heard rumors about Ken. He tried to get a job at another bank, but apparently, his reputation for unbelievable customer service had spread, and he couldn't find employment at any bank. This led him to a path of despair, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Ken apparently even had a fiancée, but after losing his bank job, they broke up. The fiancée was the daughter of a high-ranking officer at the Bennett Bank, so marrying her might have helped Ken's career, but that opportunity was lost too. Now, he's neither returned to his hometown or been heard from, effectively missing. Despite it being his own doing, I couldn't help but feel sympathy for his tragic end. Meanwhile, Emily and I continue to work hard as usual. Our company, Help Rabbit, currently offers 2 service plans, an affordable easy plan for regular families and a more expensive luxury plan with enhanced services. I suggested to Emily that we might create a new plan, somewhere between these two. Emily thought it was a good idea, saying, "Each family has different financial situations and needs. Maybe we should offer a customized service plan tailored to their specific desires." Inspired by her suggestion and our company's financial stability, I thought it was a good time to explore new customer segments with this new plan. We surveyed our employees and listened to their insights and customer feedback. While conducting surveys on social media to brainstorm ideas for our new service, I came across an online news article. It was about the reality of young caregivers. It detailed the challenges young caregivers face, not only in caregiving but also in managing household chores, which adds to their time constraints. I had only considered the burden of caregiving, forgetting about the household chores. Though I never had to care for my mother, I did household chores from a young age and understood their difficulty. These young caregivers are struggling daily with both caregiving and household tasks. I remembered how hard daily chores were and how they left no time for leisure activities. That's when an idea struck me. I thought, if families with young caregivers could also use our housekeeping services, wouldn't it at least reduce the burden of chores? To make it accessible, we could set the price even lower than our easy plan, almost like a volunteer service. That way, it would be affordable for these families. I shared this idea with Emily. "What do you think about this new plan?" "That's a great idea. It fits well with today's social situation, and I'm sure it'll be a hit." Encouraged by her support, I discussed the idea with our team. The response was unanimously positive. "Anything to help these young kids," said our veteran employee, Susan, and others chimed in. "Students should have time for studies and fun. They shouldn't miss out on their youth." Realizing the enthusiasm of our team, I decided to go ahead with the plan. We named this new service for young caregivers the Helper Plan and launched it as our company's latest offering. It was a huge success, with many families reaching out, saying, "Can you help us?" The media attention it garnered, including TV and magazine features, led to an even greater influx of requests. Due to a shortage of staff, I often had to personally visit clients' homes to provide our housekeeping services. Given the frequent requests for male staff, I took the lead in responding to such calls, actively participating in the housekeeping tasks myself. Each time I completed a job and received heartfelt thanks like, "You've really helped us," or "Thank you so much," I felt deeply fulfilled by my work. Our company's performance soared. We hired more male staff, and despite being busy, we lived fulfilling days. And today, after several months, Emily and I finally managed to take a substantial break and went on a trip together. Incidentally, this hotel is quite upscale, so I'm also hoping to pick up some pointers on staff behavior and service for our own business. It's important to absorb and learn from anything that can be a reference for our work. We should adopt the best practices we find and provide even better services. In fact, amidst our busy schedules, Emily and I got married. We have been living together for years since graduating from college. I was completely absorbed in managing the company, and Emily was always there to support me. Marriage had taken a backseat due to our busy careers. The incident with Ken was what prompted us to register our marriage. Ever since we met in middle school, Emily had always been more upset than I was when I was ridiculed, always standing up for me. It made me realize I couldn't let someone as wonderful as her go. "Emily, I know it's a bit late, but shall we get married?" She laughed and said, "It really is late, but I'm happy you asked. I'll always be here to protect you, Jason." Indeed, Emily had always been my protector. I hope that from now on, I can protect Emily as well. It would be great if we could continue to support and uplift each other. Being able to relax like this is only possible because we work so hard usually. Really, Emily, thank you for everything. Thank you too, Jason. You've worked hard. We said this, expressing our appreciation for each other. It would be great if we could continue to grow the company. Then maybe people will stop calling you the poor kid from a single-parent home. The irony is, the person who said that the most is now missing. He got what he deserved. Your outcomes were the result of your efforts, not your family background. Yes, as Emily said, one's family background doesn't determine their ability to achieve success. Despite not being raised in a normal family with both parents, I managed to graduate from college, start a company, and achieve smooth business operations. I've personally felt that everything depends on one's efforts. Hard work will surely bring good results. I hope to continue putting in the effort, together with Emily and our employees, to achieve great outcomes. Don't keep it all to yourself. Did you bring it just to flaunt it? You really are a piece of work. After all that, what are you going to do if weird rumors start spreading about you? I could spill it to the tabloids, you know. Mike has always been the same, never changing. Wow, long time no see. How have you been? Wow, good to see you made it. Voices of classmates can be heard from all around. It's lively and festive, but it feels like the chatter of bystanders that has nothing to do with me. I'm John, 30 years old. Today, I came to a middle school reunion. It's been a while since there was any news of one, but it seems there was a call to gather now that we've hit the big 30. Or they might have been holding reunions yearly. Maybe I just wasn't invited. That's the feeling I have. The venue is a hotel in downtown New York. While I'm not keen on meeting classmates, part of me is curious about what kind of adults they'd become. That's what I decided to come today, to put an end to that curiosity. Mike, a classmate from back then, was the organizer. The invitation came with his name on it. It was a thick card, the kind you'd think was for a wedding invitation. I saw him earlier at the reception, where he greeted me with a handshake and a friendly pat on the shoulder. Yet, his words told a different story. Got the invite, right? I sent it just to you. I'm connected with the others on social media, but you're a loner, aren't you? Not in touch with anyone. I didn't want you to get mad later for not being invited. I went through a lot of trouble, searching for your address. Even asking the teacher if there was an old roster. You should be grateful. Today's fun is all thanks to me. At that moment, I already regretted coming, but leaving would just make me seem like a sulking child, and that would be even worse. I nodded and gently patted his hand, still holding mine, as if to console him. And finally, I was free. Inside the venue, round tables were set up. There was no assigned seating, but I chose the seat farthest from the stage. It was empty, with no flowers in the center. It looked like a spare seat, but I chose it on purpose. No one would want to sit with me, nor did I want to talk to anyone. Even after I sat down, no one approached me. Yet, I could easily hear the excited conversations of those who were happy to see each other after a long time. "Where do you live now?" Those who ask are usually the ones who want to boast about their own place. They name-drop famous apartments and bask in the envy before modestly saying, "It's not all great, there are many challenges." This is more common among the women. For men, it's overwhelmingly about money and work. They talk about investments and business ventures while laughing, saying, "The economy's tough every year, isn't it?" Those who are truly struggling wouldn't show up here. In the end, reunions are just a broadening contest, a showcase of life achievements. It's where those who want to show off gather. Those who were at the top of the social pyramid back then continue to make their status known. Otherwise, it's about those who climbed up from the lower ranks showing off their success stories. If you were really close and enjoyed school life together, you'd meet up without needing a reunion. Regardless of where you stood in the social hierarchy, there wouldn't be any need to one-up each other or sulk, just companionship. I just don't have such friends. I still regret that even now. Although I regret it, I also believe it's unnecessary to try to reconcile and befriend them at this point. As I watched people enjoy the buffet, these thoughts crossed my mind. After a while, Mike, the MC, took the stage to give his speech. He has always taken the lead, from group leader to class president, then club president, and finally student council president. He's done it all. That's why he's the organizer and manages contact information on social media. I don't feel the slightest bit of remorse for being excluded from that circle. I'd hate to still be under his control. The venue dimmed a bit, and the school building was projected on the screen. I bet he was all eager making this slideshow too. I felt like I could predict what was coming next. Images from our album would be displayed, causing laughter and cheers. Sports festivals, field days, school trips, group photos, individual photos. The screen would change along with an ever-ending narration. It must have been collected from everyone. There were many photos that seemed to be taken among friends. In every one of them, everyone looked happy. We spent our sensitive years from 13 to 15 together. If that continues even now, it can be said that the school organization provided good friends. But I was left out of that. I wasn't one to speak up in class, nor was I much for chatting with peers. Not that I blamed or avoided anyone. I might have been the kind of student who wouldn't be missed if absent. Mike was the one who made a point of noticing me. I wasn't good at sports. I dreaded physical education classes. Mike excelled in volleyball. So, when I made a mistake in PE class, volleyball, he'd deliberately click his tongue or hurl insults like "you're useless." Knowing I was bad at it, he'd purposely send a ball my way. After such failures, I would be blamed by my classmates, and it was even said that we lost the first game of the sports festival because of me. From then on, I became his target. When it was time to choose class representatives, Mike would always nominate me. Then someone else would nominate him, and I'd end up being the laughingstock with only his vote. There were days I had to walk around in just my socks because my indoor shoes went missing, and times when my gym clothes were found in the trash. I wasn't one to dress sloppily or neglect my assignments or homework. That made it all the more difficult to find a solution, and I felt increasingly cornered. The thought of going to school the next day terrified me, causing my heart to constrict and my body to shake. Eventually, I developed alopecia areata. My mom was the first to notice and asked what was happening at school. At first, I was too ashamed to say anything, but once I started, I couldn't stop. At that time, I had severe acne. It wouldn't heal with medication, and my dad insisted that stress was the cause and even talked to the teacher about it, but nothing improved. The teacher always had the upper hand than parents who only believed their child's words. As a teacher responsible for the students' lives at school every day, I ended up spending time in the nurse's office, attending classes sporadically. Interestingly, such an atmosphere seems to spread like an infection, creating other cliques. Bullying became rampant among the girls too. The target was Sophia. She had severe atopic dermatitis, always with a reddened face. Her skin looked painfully itchy just by looking at it. It must have varied with her condition each day. The skin around her eyes was bright red, and there were times when blood seeped from behind her ears, perhaps from scratching too much. The girls found it revolting and stayed away, claiming it was contagious upon contact and treating her as if she were a germ. The one leading this was a tall girl named Lily. She always had 2 or 3 friends around her, and there was never a moment in the classroom buzz without Lily's voice. She was the center of attention and also the instigator. Today was no different, with her shrill voice resonating about apartments and overseas trips. Mike and Lily were the central figures in the classroom. Sophia and I were relegated to the bottom, barely making our presence known at the back. I stuck to my refusal to attend school until graduation, while Sophia transferred during the summer of our 3rd year. Now that we've seen some familiar faces, let's take a look at where everyone is today. Mike said that and started passing the microphone from the front row. This turned into a session where everyone bragged about themselves. Some inherited their parents' medical practices, became teachers, bankers, traders, and Mike was working at a well-known telecommunications company. Lily mentioned she had been modeling since college. I've also considered acting, and have auditioned for a few movies. You might have seen me as a boss lady Michelle in Beauty and the Beast Club, and as Maggie in Run, YouTuber. Did you catch those? I've got to aim for a leading role next time, mentioning minor roles in lesser-known movies as if they were significant achievements, which seemed rather pitiful. I think everyone felt the same way I did. She had been sending her applications to all sorts of auditions since middle school, trying to sell herself. While her enthusiasm was understandable, her voice wasn't one I wanted to keep listening to. Her lisping and dragging speech was annoying at this age. Pointing it out wouldn't change her, I suppose. As a microphone was passed around, some girls boasted about their children. Which kindergarten, what extracurricular activities, and so on. The men talked about their jobs, influential people they met through work, overseas assignments, and company struggles. Those without such stories simply expressed happiness at the reunion. Perhaps a more genuine sentiment. Mike facilitated the passing of the microphone. I planned to pass the mic without saying anything when it came to me, but as it reached me, Mike suddenly raised his voice with the mic in hand. And now, for our special guest of the day, he swung his arm towards the back door as if a singer was concluding their final song, and the heavy door beside my seat opened. In came Mr. Thompson, our homeroom teacher. His appearance sparked excitement, but I felt a growing sense of detachment observing their warm interactions. This was a complete surprise, as it seemed no one was informed. The room buzzed with excitement. But the more I saw their surprised and smiling faces exchanging greetings, the colder I felt. Was Mr. Thompson about our age back then? Now, he's become a middle-aged man. His hairline receded, and his belly protruded. He used to coach the boys' volleyball team. A guardian figure for Mike. Since his arrival, Mr. Thompson was often speaking loudly and frequently slapping backs or giving nudges. I've heard that his lack of manners, attributed to his youth, made him unpopular in the staff room. However, his coaching had led the volleyball team to significant achievements, a point of pride for him. It seems that hasn't changed much. When Mike moved to the front with him and handed him the mic, Mr. Thompson went up on stage and began to speak. "Thanks for inviting me today. I was surprised when Mike contacted me. You guys are almost 30 now, right? That's double the age from back then. I've gotten older too." I was peeking at the slideshow from behind that door, and seeing it makes you look grown up. But really, nothing has changed. You were a noisy bunch back then, and you still are. Lily, were you born talking? Oh, stop it, Mr. Thompson. Yes, Lily was always like this, catching Mr. Thompson's attention even during class. The attention from a teacher like Mr. Thompson might have been a source of pride for Lily. The moment I realized I felt entirely different about receiving the same attention. "Hey, John." Mr. Thompson's voice and gaze shot towards me. "Back in the day, you were always at the back of the classroom, barely noticeable. So, have you gotten your act together? I had my share of troubles with your parents complaining to me. You caused them grief by saying you wouldn't go to high school. But showing up here means you've become a respectable member of society, right? In contrast, Mike has always been good at leading others. I never thought he'd drag me into this. Anyway, make the most of your time and let your 30s bloom even more than before. It's like the start of your life is just beginning." After the applause, it was time for a fun quiz about our alma mater and beloved teacher. Mr. Thompson was the host, with Lily as his assistant. Holding the true or false cards we received at the reception, we answered the questions posed. With prizes on the line, everyone was quite serious. "Don't talk to your neighbor. I'll penalize you." Mr. Thompson, enjoying a beer, seemed to be having a good time too. Since I didn't receive a card at the reception, I sat silently watching until Mike approached me. He started talking to me. "Enjoying yourself? Sitting all alone here, as gloomy as ever? Listen, a reunion is a place for reconnection and new encounters. Even if you weren't cool back then, having skills can change how women see you. It's a perfect opportunity, but with that attitude, no one will come near you. What are you doing now? A part-time job?" Mike began. "No, I'm working at a company." "Oh, so you have a decent job. I thought it'd be troublesome to ask about recent updates, so I spared you from the mic. What's this company? Something you started?" "No, it's not." "I see. If you ever have trouble finding a job, let me know. I'm always here to talk. My business has endless possibilities." "That's okay. I like my current company." "Well, I guess business isn't for you, but with that attitude, you'll always be just an employee. Unless you make a lot of money and flash around a fancy apartment with your personality, you'll stay poor and never even think about marriage or love." Quietly, a side door opened, and a woman entered. She was tall and elegant. Mike hurriedly stood up. "Is this the reunion for Bluebell Junior High?" "Yes, that's why I'm here." "But the guest list." "John, sorry to keep you waiting." Seeing her wave at me, Mike said, "Oh, are you with him?" "Mike, right. Don't you remember me? I guess it's no surprise if you don't." "Yeah." Her voice was hard to hear over the noisy crowd. Leaning in, I said to Mike, who was staring at her, "You can forget her, right? Weren't those your chosen photos in the slideshow earlier?" Mike's face turned to shock. There was one photo of me in the slideshow. It was a photo with Sophia. Taken from the back of the classroom, it's unclear who snapped it. It was likely during self-study time. The photo seemed to be secretly taken through the gaps between other students. Sophia's face was reddened with rashes, and I had combed my hair to the side and used mousse to cover my alopecia. Mike went out of his way to showcase such a photo of the two of us in the reunion slideshow. I thought he was truly spiteful. "I would never consult with someone like you, no matter what happens in life." "Cut it be. I'm Sophia." Mike's eyes widened in shock. "You weren't invited, were you? But since we were classmates, I contacted him. We don't need a table. We're fine here." "Wait a minute." Mike walked up front and snatched the microphone from Lily. "Everyone, our special guest for today has arrived, actress Sarah." Rushing back, he tried to lead Sophia to the front. Ignoring her wish to stay, he forcefully pulled her forward. The loudest cheer of the day erupted, and everyone stood up. Probably no one realized that the Sophia they knew and actress Sarah were the same person. But the applause was for the actress's arrival. I didn't realize. I've seen all her movies, but I had no idea that Sarah was Sophia. Thank you so much for coming. You must be busy, right? I saw on the news yesterday that you're filming a new project. Mike was stuttering, his face flushed with excitement. Sophia seemed a bit taken aback by his enthusiasm. Please, go ahead and speak as much as you like. Wow, it's an honor to have you visit us. But weren't you in the middle of a game? Oh, that's nothing important. We were just killing time, right, teacher? Absolutely. But why would a successful actress come here? She was mentioned in the slideshow earlier. No, maybe everyone doesn't remember. She transferred schools. I didn't have her address, so I couldn't invite her. John told me about it. Oh, is that so? You know each other? Well, yes, we were classmates. Right. You transferred during our third year, didn't you? How have you been since? You seemed quite frail back then. Mr. Thompson is speaking to Lily, who's sulking after having the microphone taken from her. He probably doesn't remember. He tended to pay attention only to the students who were assertive and stood out. Finally, Mike passed the microphone. Sophia, dressed simply in a knit and skirt, stood out as more elegant than the overly dressed-up girls. She truly looked the part of a professional. Her skin and hair had a different glow. Hello, I'm Sophia. I'm now working as an actress under the name Sarah. I joined you today on a whim. I didn't expect many of you to remember me, but my middle school years were largely spent here. I've recently taken on a role as a school teacher and wanted to revisit the atmosphere of those days. I'd rather forget my own time here. With severe eczema and a miserable personal life, including my family's financial struggles and a poor relationship with my parents. I understand if you have a bad impression of me. I don't have many fond memories of school myself, but those times led to who I am today, so I don't want to erase them. I transferred schools due to my parents' circumstances and moved during the summer, so I couldn't say goodbye. It's been on my mind ever since. Thank you for everything back then, although it may be difficult to meet again. I look forward to your continued support. Applause and cheers followed her speech. Please continue without me. I'll just watch from the back. No, wait, everyone must have questions, right? As Mike hastily stopped her, the cheers grew louder. After setting up 2 chairs on the stage, he announced, "Let's have a Q&A session with our esteemed classmate, Sarah. Raise your hand if you have a question. Lily, bring her something to drink." People scrambled to move chairs and tables for a better view and to take pictures. Some are setting up side tables, others are recording. It's like a press conference or a talk show. Mr. Thompson watched from the front. And Lily, sulking after being snatched the microphone, brought over 2 juices before heading off to the buffet to load up her plate. Sophia was bombarded with questions about her acting career and celebrity friendships. Lily sat down next to me with a plate of food. What's this all of a sudden? When did you two get so close to share reunion details? Did you not want her to come? It's not that, but when did she enter showbiz? She must have been in it for a while now, right? If you're that curious, why not ask her yourself instead of sitting here? At my words, Lily said, "Humph," and started eating alone, making a face as if she had no interest. Aren't you going to eat, John? No, I have somewhere to go. Huh? Why did you come to the reunion then? Someone you wanted to see? No, just curious about what reunions are like. They are more boring than you'd think, huh? Despite the lively atmosphere earlier. I'd almost burst out laughing at her comment. All they talk about is how hard it is to take out the trash from the 30th floor, or how their husbands' corporate dinners involve spouses too. It's also domestic. It's not like they are just housewives. It's dull. And yet, the celebrity she aspired to be was right there, turning her back to it in such a situation. So, she felt upstaged and was downcast. That's right, she's only had minor roles twice. Too embarrassed to mention it, I suppose. In my mind, I kept unleashing all I wanted to say to Lily. Sophia, after transferring, was scouted on the street several times but initially declined. However, she reluctantly accompanied a friend and ended up winning an audition. Roles opposite popular idols, commercials with famous composers, lead roles in dramas, collaborations with young actors. Her career took off rapidly, and she continued to be a prominent figure. But no one realized she was our classmate, Sophia. She had changed that much. Hey, hasn't she had plastic surgery? That's why she looks so different. Lily, looking confident, turned to me, and I firmly responded, "Isn't that more about you? You came to school with a swollen nose at the start of a new term. Sophia still has a sharp nose." Before I finished speaking, Lily stood up with her plate in hand. Lily had nose surgery in middle school. It was obvious to everyone with her unnaturally swollen nose. She was supposed to transform during spring break, but the swelling didn't subside afterward. Unable to miss the new term, she attended school regardless. During spring break, she went to Mexico for aftercare, which became a topic of discussion in our class. And yet, she had the nerve to say such things to others. Had she forgotten about her own cosmetic procedures? I was astounded. "I'm sorry, but I have to go now. I'm running out of time. It was nice to see everyone. I wish I could have enjoyed my school days more, but it was mostly regrettable. However, seeing familiar faces today made me happy. I hope for your continued support." After Sophia concluded, she took a few commemorative photos and descended amidst applause. "Sorry for the wait. You must be hungry. Let's go," she said softly, with a chuckle. We stood up and left through the door together. Mike chased after us. "Where are you two going? You're in a hurry because you have plans, John. Why have you been in touch all this time? Why didn't you tell me? See you later. Enjoy the reunion," I said, leaving Mike fumbling for his business card in his jacket pocket as we entered the elevator. Through the closing doors, I saw Mike stamping his feet in frustration. Inside the elevator, Sophia smiled contentedly. Back then, Sophia suffered from her parents' neglect. Her home was a mess, with nothing to eat. Her father couldn't quit drinking, and her mother was overwhelmed by his debts. One day, her mother, claiming to have overnight work, never returned. "Let's sort out the debts and leave this house together," her mother used to say like a mantra, yet, despite this, she left Sophia behind. Living with her foul-mouthed, drunk father, Sophia's skin condition worsened. Yet no one would pay for her treatment. In the dead of winter, their gas was cut off, they couldn't bathe properly, and had to use an electric kettle for warmth. Unable to pay for school meals, her father told her not to eat. She reluctantly lied about her eczema, saying she couldn't eat the same menu as everyone else. Mr. Thompson didn't pay much attention. The school nurse invited her to eat in the infirmary, but she was too modest to go. During lunchtime, Sophia would disappear, and no one seemed to care. My father is a dermatologist. He's the one who treated my alopecia areata. At that time, I described a condition of Sophia's skin and asked if he could prescribe some medicine. My dad said he couldn't prescribe any medication without seeing the condition first. After some hesitation, I finally approached Sophia. I told her there would be no charge for the treatment. Perhaps that's why she finally agreed. Initially, Sophia was silent. She must have been worried about being exposed at school and now having to show her condition to a doctor as well. She probably didn't want to be questioned either. Indeed, My father was surprised to see Sophia's condition. It wasn't just the skin. Her dirty uniform and emaciated appearance made it clear this was no minor issue. He considered reporting it to Child Protective Services, but Sophia was against it. She wanted to wait for her mom and didn't want to go to a facility. For the time being, to avoid worsening the situation, we tucked Sophia in to stay with us. Seeing Sophia and me being ostracized at school, my parents couldn't remain indifferent. It was during the summer vacation of our third year in middle school. My mom was a hairdresser, and my sister was already working as an esthetician at that time. There was an apartment above the beauty salon where my sister lived, and she let us stay there. Sophia was taken to a clean room with air conditioning and couldn't stop crying in front of my mom and sister. Thanks to my father's treatment and a change of environment, her skin gradually improved. We contacted Sophia's father to let him know we wanted to focus on her treatment, but he showed no interest except to insist that we not ask for money. My mom tidied up and trimmed Sophia's hair, while my sister gave her some of her own clothes to wear. Sophia originally had cool-looking eyes, more beautiful than pretty. Seeing her skin gradually improve also gave me a sense of satisfaction. My father, the son of a surgeon, chose dermatology against opposition. My mother fulfilled her childhood dream of becoming a hairdresser. Because of such parents, I was never forced into a specific path. They said it was okay not to go to school if it was causing me stress to the point of losing my hair, so I stopped even going to the nurse's office around that time. There was talk of transferring schools, but I hated the idea of entering a new environment with my condition. I fell behind in my studies, but a tutor my dad arranged for came to our house. Sophia studied with me as well. On days off, my sister would take us to the library or movies, and sometimes we served as practice models for her aesthetic training. At the end of the summer, Sophia's mom returned from a resort. Even with me there, she deeply thanked my parents. She had come into some money and decided to leave her husband and start new with her daughter. Tired of a life pursued by debt and having prioritized earning over child rearing, she confessed to sacrificing Sophia and cried. Thanks to our help, she was able to settle her debts and make a fresh start. Sophia's mom found a job in a different district to avoid her ex-husband and rented a room there. Sophia had to change schools and moved away. My dad made her promise to come back anytime if needed, and my mom got her to promise to visit the salon at least once a month. My sister, who saw Sophia as a younger sibling, was sad to see her go. After starting high school, Sophia was scouted on the street twice but declined due to her distrust of adults. However, a friend who was with her was keen, and they ended up applying for an audition together, which led to new opportunities. The friend who applied with her is now her manager. I didn't go to high school. Tired of school and classmates, my mom took me to the salon to do odd jobs. Sweeping after cuts, folding towels, handling the cash register. She probably wanted to avoid me shutting myself in. I'm grateful for that to this day, and working alongside my mom, I grew interested in beauty, which helped my condition improve. I enrolled in high school a year late because I needed a high school diploma to attend beauty school. Since I had a clear goal, I was able to move forward. I used to shampoo my mom and sister's hair, and even cut Sophia's hair. After working as a hairdresser for 5 years, I switched careers and now work as a beauty products distributor. I have no regrets about my current life. Until we got here, we always encouraged each other. During Sophia's debut, we were very careful to avoid scandals, but we still maintain a family-like relationship with her. My sister's aesthetic salon employs Sophia as an exclusive model, and through her introduction, both my dad and mom now have celebrity patients and clients. Looking back, it seems like a dream come true. That evening, I received a call from Mike, Hey, are you hunting her all to yourself? Did you bring her just to show off? You're really mean-spirited. After all that, what if some weird rumors about you start circulating? Like she dished the reunion for a guy planning to snitch. Why would I? I'm just saying, be careful not to let that happen. Anyway, I want to meet her too. I'm currently into this health food online business, and it would really help if she could support it. She said she doesn't like that kind of stuff. What? Acting all-knowing. I could spill this to the tabloids, you know. That's just like you, only thinking about yourself, same as always. What's that supposed to mean? Check her social media. She wrote that she had a great time. Yet, if you peddle scandals, you might never be treated as a classmate again. Considering our past, it's a miracle she even attended today. Mike fell silent, and I hung up. The movie Sophia is about to shoot is about a young female teacher set in a middle school. She was asked by the director about her middle school life and shared everything. Despite it being a dark past, she hoped revealing it would inspire children in similar situations. Sophia is actually involved in charity work for underprivileged children, and the movie project started from there. They decided to base the story on real events, even including a child actor modeled after Sophia as a student. While addressing discrimination based on appearance and environment, the movie is meant to be enjoyable and lighthearted. She said she wouldn't have accepted the role if it was too serious, as it would be too painful for her. In the end, the protagonist, a female teacher, goes to a reunion, resolves old grievances, and settles past entanglements. The idea of attending the reunion came up while preparing for the role, and she expressed her desire to go. Of course, it wasn't just for the role. Sophia also had a desire for revenge. By boldly revealing her miserable past and showing how she overcame it, she was saving herself. If anyone remembered the past, she didn't want to be remembered as she was. She never wanted others to expose how things used to be. I think the reunion, where she could reveal herself and show where she is now, was a good opportunity. Sophia's filming progressed smoothly, and before the movie's kickoff, she announced our engagement through social media. The post mentioned how meaningful this movie was to her, as it reflected her past self, supported by her fiancé and his family. I wasn't in the spotlight, but received many warm congratulations. The completed movie featured names that were clear nods to our past, with characters like the homeroom teacher Mr. Thompson, the class president Michael who was good at handball, and the queen bee Libby. But no one could complain, because there wasn't a single lie. In interviews and stage greetings, Sophia consistently expressed her wish for everyone to enjoy their student life. Even after escaping a tough environment, the dark past lingers in one's heart. Both Sophia and I carry such scars, but we're saying it's time to stop dwelling on the past and harboring resentment. Never forgetting to be grateful to people, we'll focus solely on our future. Because building a better life is the only way to heal the wounds of the heart.